I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Village of Leonard Council. Today is February 11th, 2019. I want to welcome everybody, wish everybody a early happy Valentine's Day. I know we're all looking forward to that. With that, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a brief invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us and guide the decisions of this board, and may they be in the best interest of this community. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you. Okay, could we have a roll call of attendance for the village council members?
President McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Sotheby. Here. Mrs. Arundel. Here. Mrs. Swack. Here. Mr. Kennedy.
Here.
Please note for the record that both Clerk Cindy Grosskopf and Treasurer Judy Verse are present. Council received the minutes of the January 14th, 2019 regular meeting. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If none, a motion to approve would be in order.
I so move.
I'll second.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, moving on to agenda approval. Council has an agenda before it. Are there any questions, changes? If none, a motion to approve the agenda would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, council has the treasurer's report for the village. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If none, a motion to receive and file it would be in order.
I make a motion we receive and file the treasurer's report.
I'll second that.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
President McDonald.
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel. Yes. Mrs. Swack.
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the next item of business, we have some budget adjustments. The end of the last day of February is the last day of our budget year, and we've got some amendments to make for the different categories. Council, you received communication in your packets with the amounts indicating what fund, whether it was an increase or a decrease in a category, and whether and where the money would be used. So are there any questions, changes, or corrections? The major fund, you'll notice it was a significant amount of money. That is because the MDOT, we expected to pay our MDOT funds in the previous budget year and did not. They didn't bill us until we were into this year, and I had not allowed for that when we adopted the budget. So we're going to take the money from that we already have in reserve for that and allocate it from the general reserves, and that's in the amount of $95,357.95. And that will close out the Elmwood Street project once and for all. So, are there any other questions? If none, a motion to approve the amendments as submitted would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'd like to second it.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Sotheby.
Yes.
Mrs. Swack.
Yes.
President McDonald.
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel. Yes. Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Okay. Council has before it the accounts payable for January 2019. Are there any questions, changes, corrections? If none, a motion to approve the payment of those bills as indicated would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $7,586.35 for the general, $2,130.39 for major, $502.50 for local, and $0 for Mill Park Recreation.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call to pay the bills for January?
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, the village council is going to have a public hearing for truth in taxation and budget purposes for the upcoming budget year, which runs from March 1st through the end of February of next year. At this time, we'd like to hear if there's any comment from the public.
We have a motion.
So we need a motion to open the public hearing, and then we'll move on into the public hearing.
I make a motion, we open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please say no. Briefly for the information for those of you that may not be familiar, state law requires that we run a balanced budget. We have proposed and would like to adopt that balanced budget at this time. The council and the budget have been available for public review, and we have published the required notification of a truth and taxation hearing, and it is the intention of the village council to levy the same 7 mills that we've had for the last 2 years for funding purposes for that budget. There are other forms of income, Act 51 monies for operating the major and the local funds. Are there any questions? Otherwise, if you have a comment, we'd be open to hear it.
I have a question.
Sure, Cindy.
Fluoride. Are we still scheduling 2?
We budgeted for it, yes.
You need to come live on our road for a while.
Yeah, I know, we've got more than one problem down there with speeders and the dust.
That didn't tell me anything. So if I call you at some point, possibly get another one,
Get another one more.
thing of chloride
Application.
Yeah,
in the summertime.
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Haven't we always?
Well, we've never pressed that issue, but it's
Okay.
getting bad.
Okay. Yes, the answer is
Okay.
yes. Anybody else?
Is there anything in the budget for these Rochester Road at all? Is this Rochester Road?
Potholes.
It's,
Yeah.
I almost blew out a tire. I mean, I'm hitting a couple hard ones by Pollyann and in front of our house is just,
I
I
know weather's not helping.
don't know what
Right,
warranty
right.
came with these roads, but I think this is,
There is no warranty. If a road project isn't over $2 million, there's no warranty. So this road, Forest went down in 2011. So
Was that what it was?
so we're experiencing the normal wear and tear and breakdown. And yes, when the conditions permit, Don has been out patching potholes.
well, the
So-
one thing I was just.
And it is budgeted for.
Right, the one thing I wanted to ask is, if you look from like Tinkin to Rochester all the way up to Lakeville, they did back in the 90s, it looks a lot better than our roads do that got done in 2011. Remember when they tore that up from Tinkin to Rochester all the way up?
Well, yeah, but that was later than,
No, that was back in the 90s.
It was
90s or early 2000, and our roads are
just
terrible.
before ours. They
yeah.
started in Rochester.
Yeah, they did.
Well, it was like
They went from
2002,
Tinkin to Rochester,
2003.
because I remember traveling and they had it all ripped up back, I think it was 90s or early 2000. Those roads look like a lot better shape than ours.
Yeah, they've been out and they've, crack sealed them, which was something that we've done, but we're I have budgeted where if we need to, we can get a company to come in and crack seal, but we'll take care of the surfacing.
Have another
but-
nice night.
Yeah, I know the weather's a factor, but it's getting terrible.
Yeah. We do the best we can with what we have. So, anybody else? If none, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing and reopen.
I think Janet had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Janet.
A couple years ago, maybe it's been 3, I don't know, I come and asked if the curbing would be checked in front of my place to stop the water from ending up in my house.
Right.
And I don't think that was, at that time, they said they had to have an engineer come out and check
Right.
that. And I don't think he's ever been.
He did come out and look, but because of the Elmwood Street project, we didn't have the money to do it. But we know what it'll need. The problem, and I'll talk with you about it, but one of the questions was the size of the curb that would be needed to keep that water directed away, away from the driveway. So we'll talk, Janet.
Okay.
Okay? Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing for truth and taxation and reopen the regular meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for truth and taxation and reopen the regular meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. Okay, now's an opportunity for public comment. If you have something that you'd like to bring to the council's attention that's not on the agenda, this would be the time to do it. We ask that you keep your comments brief and to the point so that we can manage it at the time of the meeting. With that, is there anybody that'd like to address the village council? Yes.
4285. Everybody's familiar with that house?
The yellow house.
Yeah, that caught on fire in the garage. I know you guys said you set in some ordinances at that matter, but now he's got a privacy fence that comes across and wraps back, and I don't know how much crap he's got stacked up there that we can see from our yard, but I mean, that kind of place is looking like a dump, over there, and I was just wondering if that's been addressed at a point.
Well, other than having notified them of violations, there's been no further action taken. But we can certainly go back.
Because if you come in my backyard, you'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, I've had other neighbors.
It looks like crap from the front yard.
Well, from the front it does, but if you go from the back, it's just putting they just wrapped it, and I couldn't tell you what's stacked back there, but it'd blow your mind. I know there's another minivan back there, but.
But yeah, I mean, there's two neighbors' houses between us, and when I walk to the fire pit, that's all you see. I think the pile is just grown going backwards.
Yeah.
It doesn't look that horrible from the road, but yeah, from their yard,
Right.
it's bad.
Okay, all right. We'll try and make that a priority. Anybody else? Yes.
Got a few goodies for the new people. We'll come use them. It's cool. Charges. I don't know how much you know about the town, and I don't know a whole lot either, but I researched things. And I thought I'd start at the beginning with the first page that shows Franklin Raleigh coming in and putting his sawmill in, and he created, I would say, the majority of the business in this town. He had a brother named Joseph who lived right in the yellow house next to the fire hall. His official obituary is on that page, and his house with his kids. And, all right. So I think Frank had a vision when he saw the railroad come in. He thought, well, I'll put my sawmill there and we'll cut some wood. And so he did that and created a whole bunch of other industry. When he came in, though, he had a vision, and pretty soon Leonard Rowland had a vision, Peter Brewer and Sidney Whitehead, and they basically created the village of Leonard at that time. It took a few years. Our history book says in 1908 started the decline of the village of Leonard when Frank Rowley died. So did all of his businesses, and we started going downhill at that time. At least that's what our history book said. And they've got a whole bunch of articles about how wonderful Leonard was, growing like crazy. And then we got hit by fires. We lost, I don't know, 5 or 6 houses to fires. Probably more than that. What?
Is there a point to this?
Yeah, just pay attention.
Don't be telling me.
We'll put you in the hall.
Hey, direct your comments to the council.
Okay. All right, now, the next page shows I call it, Leonard lost its vision and decided to tear the south side of the town down. They say it was because the state came in and told them that the buildings were a hazard. I think it was a little more than that. I think there were still outhouses in the backyards of those buildings on the south side in the early 60s. That really wasn't heard of. There were no septic systems. I think the state came in and told them to get sewers because the lots weren't big enough to put a septic field in. That was the same time that Lake Orion and Oxford were being attacked by the health department to put sewers in. I remember I lived in Lake Orion. I saw the sewage from Lake Orion Lake flow down Paint Creek. And if you read the history book of Rochester, they had to shut down Avon Park swimming because the sewage from Lake Orion was so bad. So we lost these, didn't have to lose those buildings. They disappeared. All right, the next part here is the Clark and Leonard Drain survey by the Oakland County Health Department in 2006 through, I think, 7, 8, I don't know how long it lasted. You don't have the complete set. I can't read mine. The county has them. I'd suggest if you want to look at that, go to the county. They have it. Then I was always wondering why the people in Ortonville voted down sewers, and so I made a soil survey map that I was pretty amazed. I understand why they voted it down. They've got excellent soil for septic fields. They don't need it, except the ones that live around Kersley Creek. They do need it. And those are the ones they should focus on. We have the same problem here. If you look at our soil on the other map, if it's green, the health department will accept it. If you got enough land, you don't need a whole lot for sand. Leonard's just opposite. We've got mostly pink. It's not acceptable to the health department. They're not going to let you build anything in this town in pink. It's not happening unless you've got at least an acre of land. So we're pretty much not going to do anything. What's going to happen? Here's a copy of the Times Herald, October 30th, 2016. Smith's Creek didn't want to get sewers. They had 29 homes that needed sewers. They weren't doing it. They watched Worth Township go to the Michigan Supreme Court and lose. They spent $10 million fighting. They lost. Smith's Creek got the message. They decided to get sewers.
Another minute, Dave.
Yep. This is fine. I'm done.
Okay.
So read this over. Some houses, they said on one side of the creek, they didn't need them. The county was not after them to put sewers in. But the smaller lots were required. Who paid for it? Those 29 people that needed sewers, not the people that don't need sewers. They don't require that. My mother has a major sewer line go right past her house, and she is still living off the 1950 septic field that works just fine. So, anyway, that's a little history. Hopefully it helps you a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on then into the new business. At this time, having held the truth and taxation and set our budget, I'd like to ask the Village Council's approval of the 2019-2020 Leonard Village budget. There is a motion in your packet to do so, and that includes adopting it by funded functional category with the following acknowledgements and approvals. That the Truth and Taxation public notice has been duly published, and the millage rate for the village in this budget will remain at 7 mills. The general fund will forgive rental of equipment from the major and local budgets on the condition that revenues from Act 51 or other sources do not cover the amount contributed by the general fund. And the budget is balanced for revenues and expenditures at the amount of $221,379.11 for general, $80,591.50 for major, and $13,973 for local. Park and Recs has $18,686.25 as of the date of adoption. So is there a motion to approve the budget and the millage rate as presented?
I so move. I second.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote for approval, please?
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
The motion is approved for 2019-2020 for the budget. Okay. Next item on the agenda, some of the council members will remember, and the public may remember, that 2 years ago, the state dropped the tax credits for historic preservation in Michigan. There is a movement to restore those historic preservation tax credits, which are used by both, can be used by both residents and businesses to preserve and update homes and buildings that need it. So this resolution is to lend our support to Senate Bill 54 and House Bill 4100 and call upon the Michigan legislature to pass this important legislation to stimulate appropriate development and redevelopment and protect the historic character and quality of life of our Michigan communities. So is there looking for a motion to approve the resolution and support it?
I'd like to make a motion to support the resolution as presented.
I'll second it.
Is there any questions on the motion or the resolution? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. And we'll show that as unanimously approved. Okay, next item on the agenda, number 3, is a council committee appointment. Trustee Jennifer Swack has indicated that she would be willing to be the alternate member representative for the village for NODA. Currently, I'm the only member, and there have been a couple of occasions where I wasn't able to attend a meeting, so hopefully we can cover those meetings this way. So I'm asking for the council's approval of my putting her up for that position.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to second it.
To approve?
Approved, yes. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions? If none, all in favor of the motion to appoint Jennifer Swack as the alternate representative to NODA, please say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, thank you, and congratulations.
What about a building today?
Yeah, how about that? Okay, this next item is in regards to the Addison Township Fire Board, of which the village has been a member since its inception. The township is considering dissolving the fire board because due to changes in law and administration, there's really no powers. There's only one official power that the fire board has, and that's in representing a resident in the event that there's a fee or a charge involved for services provided by the fire department. The Addison Township Board is willing to hear those appeals if the fire board is dissolved. So they've asked us for our opinion, basically, because they basically control the fire board and its existence. And I could come up with no logical reason to oppose the dissolution, other than it is a rather historic and citizen-driven board. It used to take care of fire and police, but it's been strictly fire for probably the last 16 or 20 years. And I'd like to ask the council to inform the Addison Township Board of Trustees that we are not opposed to the dissolution as long and under the condition that the fire department and the Addison Township Board will take over all of those responsibilities currently held by the fire board. So, are there any questions from the council?
I'd like to say that I believe we are giving up something here at the village. We will not have a voice. We technically haven't had a voice, but that's neither here nor there. We will not have a voice if this is dissolved.
Right. And that's why I believe in a participatory government. So, but I also have looked into it as far as what the fire board actually does. And essentially between the biggest duties that they've done in the past is they review things for the township board as far as fire chief recommendations, budget recommendations, things like that. But ultimately it is up to the the township board to decide what it will be.
We used to have a voice on the fire chief. Does this mean we would no longer have a vote?
Right, we would not. As a recommendation. We've not had the power to veto or anything like that. But you're right, we would have no official voice because there would be no fire board.
Right.
Conversely, the 4 members of the township that are members of that board, and there is no pay for it, it's a volunteer board, they've always had the power to override any local, any decision that may or may not be in the village's favor. But I think the Addison Township and the fire department have demonstrated that they take good care of the village. They've gotten our ISO ratings down as low as they possibly can go, which is good for insurance rates and things like that. I've only heard a few incidents where there was ever a real problem. So I don't think it will effectively hamper our business of administering the village or hurt the cooperation between the department and the village. So, but we'll have an opportunity to vote right now.
We will.
So, okay.
What is the major up reason for them wanting to dissolve it?
Well, excuse me. The fire board itself passed a recommendation that was also voted in approval by our local representative, who represents the village, to dissolve it. They just felt that the township board and the fire department could both administer things well enough without them. And that was basically what started it. And there have been a couple of letters of opposition to the idea, but that's one of the reasons I think they're asking us for our opinion. So,
Well, a few times.
yeah. Okay, so does council have anything further? Does anybody have a comment on the situation? Janet?
That board started in about 78 when they separated the dispatch from Oxford and Atlanta. And that's when that board was formed. And that's basically why it was formed at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on it. I've been a supervisor when it was still in force, and back then, 30 years ago, they were still doing police and fire. And frankly, they were instrumental in recommending and reviewing the contracts with the police and later on with the full-time fire chiefs, etc. But the township board, again, ultimately has the final say on it. So this all started because the members themselves don't see that the usefulness is there anymore. So
I just see that Leonard is losing a voice. Even if that voice hasn't always cooperated with this board. You are losing a voice you will not get back.
well, I don't have any problems going down there and thumping the counter to talk to somebody about when there is a problem. And my experience has been that Bruce Pearson and the township board have always been very open to me anyways, you know, when there has been something of concern. The police, or I should say the sheriff and building officials down there, so.
I'm just
But
saying, you
we're-
won't always have the same people on those boards as you have today.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of the council? Is there a motion either way? If none, if we don't take any action, it's like saying, we don't care. So, I mean, I'm sure that's how it'll be seen.
So there's 4 people on the Addison board right now.
4 Addison Township residents and 1 Village of Leonard resident.
Okay, so there is 1 voice
One voice.
still active, like 20% of the people.
I know some municipalities or communities, they meet once a year or whatever. They don't meet monthly. And I know this group isn't even meeting monthly anymore. I still am a firm believer that Leonard is losing. That's my opinion.
These aren't elected spots either.
No, they're not.
No,
They're
they're
appointed.
appointments. The township board appoints all 5. However, we recommend the member from the village to sit on that board. Yes.
Has that member that is part of the Village of Leonard, have they said whether or not it's useful for them to do that?
No, he supported the
Dissolution.
the letter of dissolution to the township. Having been on both sides, I sat on that board back in the 80s and then administered it in the late 80s and early 90s. But back then there was a lot more going on. And a lot of the powers had been reduced. There was, some people may remember, there was a change in state law that allowed communities to create public safety boards, which is what Oxford had done. And it turned out to be nothing but a big problem, because those people were not elected either. They were appointed, and they kind of went their own way. made some decisions that ended up costing those communities considerably. So those have kind of gone by the wayside, but they took most of the powers that had previously rested with fire boards, put them into that legislation, and then when that went away, I think that law is still there, but basically the powers were already gone from fire boards. As I said, the only function that Addison Township gives the fire board currently is if a resident has a problem paying, and the fire board will review it and make a recommendation to either forgive or modify the amount. And they may or may not do that, depending on the request. So that's really the only official thing that they do anymore, besides offer a recommendations for what the township board they think they should do.
However, if Addison Township, the people there say that they don't want it, then it's not going to matter if we say yes or no currently, because they have the majority vote.
Basically, yeah, it's a township board controlled function, basically.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to keep it, because I think at least having any voice is better than having no voice.
I second that.
All right, are there any questions on the motion? Any comments or questions from the residents? Okay, hearing none, we have a roll call vote, I guess, so that way we'll know numbers-wise.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
President McDonald?
No.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Alrighty. I will inform the township. 2019 mileage rate for reimbursement for officials using their own vehicles for this current budget year. Federal amount is 50, which is what we generally follow, is 58 cents per mile driven for business use. So for 2019, I recommend to the village council that we set that as the reimbursement rate.
I motion that we adopt the 2019 millage rate.
I'll second.
Mileage rate, sorry.
Mileage rate, right.
Mileage rate.
And again, that's at 58 cents.
At 58 cents.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call for this, please?
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Okay. Village Council has received a packet with all of the meeting dates for the Village Council, Village Planning Commission, Village Recreation Committee, the Decorating Committee. So at this time, it would be in order to approve those submissions as presented.
I'd like to make one correction on the Oxford cable one.
Okay.
Because of weather, the January meeting was postponed till today. So the February meeting has been canceled.
Oh, okay.
And there will be an April 29th open house.
But is that an official meeting or?
I believe that it will be also an official meeting.
Okay.
That was my understanding at today's meeting anyway.
Okay, so what were the dates? So January?
28th was canceled and today was February 11th, which was the January meeting. So they've canceled February 25th. The next meeting is April 29th, which will also be an open house.
Okay. If there are no other corrections, a motion to approve the meeting dates would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting dates as presented to the village.
I'll second that.
With the amendment.
With the amendment.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, motion carried. Okay, under old business, sanitary sewer survey update. We're still getting surveys, so I sent out a brief compilation of what we had already received, but I'd like to suggest that we allow us to collate the rest of them and get the fresh numbers out to everybody. Generally, it was much, there were more people within the quarter-mile radius responded to the survey, almost 3 to 1. The people the no's outvoted the yeses as far as spending the money for a consultant, but that could change with the new votes. More said they would not be interested in a public sewage system. Slightly more said no, they wouldn't want to see the village business in undeveloped areas become more developed. And we had a lot of comments. So once we get them all, and they were both ways, you know, but we'll get that put together and then it will be available at the village office and to the trustees when it's completed. So are there any other comments from the council or questions?
I do.
Mr. Rathberg?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know why we don't include the township in this and ask for donations. We could get $25,000.
We have asked, jointly, we've talked about doing it.
No, I don't mean the government. I mean the people that are gonna use this community.
The village's eligibility for grants is removed if we go outside the village, because it would sway the economic level higher than would let us qualify for grants. And the grant could cover up to 45%.
No, I'm talking just a survey. Give donations to cover the survey. Not the building of the sewage treatment.
Dave, what would be the point if we're talking about a village system?
What do you mean?
Why would they be interested in covering our towns?
It's a tax write-off for one thing.
Yes, sir.
Dale Poncius, resident in Leonard. I keep hearing expansion of the town of Leonard. Where exactly would the expansion be? I mean, what I see is just, I'm a newbie here, only lived in Leonard 15 years, but I see nothing. Where would you expand? I just don't understand where this is going. This wasn't developed to be an expanded village. And I hear that we want sewers and water and this and that.
Well, we're not
for expansion, but where are we expanding?
We're trying to address concerns that we have received, both from the health department and from some residents. And the purpose of the survey was to find out, hopefully, get a good cross-section of people to respond and tell us yes, no. If we do the study, it will cost us $25,000, give or take. But we'll know what options are out there and what the costs will be.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get. We are going to spend $25,000 to find out that we can't expand anyways because there's no room for expansion. So why spend that money?
They're,
A lot of empty buildings in town too.
Right, that's what we're trying to
I
address.
think, yeah, the expansion would be to update.
please address the council if
Okay,
you,
I'll address the board. I don't think anyone's looking to expand the village. I think we're looking to better the village and make it what it used to be, which was great. We've got a lot of abandoned buildings and buildings deteriorating around us. Back to the $25,000. I don't think it was put out there that it wasn't going to come out of our pocket. I have been known for a fact that there is money in place that can help with this $25,000, and it's not going to come just strictly from the village. It's just to see if the study does prove that we do need to better the septic sewer problem in the village, and then we can make the town great again.
I
It's not
appreciate what you're
expand it.
saying, Jamie, but I see sewers and water coming in. Where do we know this water's coming from? It could be coming from Flint.
well, we're not
there's
talking about
problems.
water, sir. We're not, Ms. Pontius, we're not talking about water. And we're not talking about, just so there's total transparency here, we're not talking about making the village bigger. We're talking about making it possible. There are a lot of lands and a lot of lots that are vacant and owned by people that are basically not developable because of either the soil conditions or the size. So this would be, at least what our discussion has been, is we're talking about a user fee-based system which will be paid for by the users of the system. So sizing it, etc., would be a function of the study. And there is enough vacant land around the village where we could probably find a site on which to put a facility.
And on that same note, I've been here 36 years of my life, and we recently had to sell our house and move into a different home because we couldn't put in a new septic field. The entire 1 acre of property we had was all clay, to the point where Mike Tyler from the Oakland County Health Department said he never saw anything like that in his life. So I asked everybody in this room, 10 years from now, when your septic system fails and the entire village is clay, are you prepared to put in a $40,000 engineered field? Because that's what they're going to require of you, with a $900 a year maintenance fee. That's what they wanted us to do right down here at 65 bucks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Radford had his hand up and then,
Okay, now you're not aware of the DEQ coming in and telling us that we were not in compliance with the state and federal law. They'll force us to get compliant, they will. They will say that we're not following the law as we don't have a permit to dump sewage into the lakes and streams of the United States. This usually
which we are
means-
not doing, Dave, and Ortonville's had the same problem.
I
so,
know, but they can.
You know,
They can come in here and they can
Yeah,
do
of
that.
course.
Will they do that? Probably not.
ma'am, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly and what Jamie was saying. So your septic system and the soil, the ground is so bad, you cannot replace it with a new septic system. Am I understanding that correctly?
To the board, they were requiring us to put in an engineered system, which was going to be, they said, about $35,000 to $40,000, and then there was an annual maintenance fee of $900 annually to come out and check it. And they said that tops, it would last probably 10 to 15 years.
But what I'm asking is, you can't put a regular septic system in.
On some
Because of the
soils,
soil.
some soils in the village, depending on the location, have arable soils suitable for septic systems. Many of the smaller lots don't meet the current standard for size that the county has for a septic system. So you have an option. You can come to some kind of agreement with them, or you can use a package treatment system like Mrs. Martell was talking about. So it varies, and that was one of the reasons for the survey, because if you happen to live on a lot that doesn't have enough area for a new field, and you don't have the soils, it could be expensive, and certainly those people would rather spend that money on a sewer system than they would on putting it in the ground in their backyard. And that's really ultimately what's gonna, economics is what's gonna make
What
that.
about the new homes that have perk, the county come out, they perked it, we have a house next to us that is maybe 13 months old, she's talking 40 grand, I'm sure they probably got 15, 20 grand into their system. Things are outrageous now. What about them? Now they have to hook up to the sewage system?
Well, no, I don't want to say yes or no to that, because the study would determine what the cost would be per resident and would also determine the area that needed it. So if I'm familiar with, Leonard Estates, and much of the soil there is sandy and adequate, and probably nobody up there would really need or want sanitary sewers. Conversely, right across the street and further south, there's large parcels of land that are not developable for the reason that the soils are so poor. So it's a real catch-22. You gotta watch what you wish for.
So if this goes through, and I've been told that those that don't need it will not have to pay for it, is that a for sure?
No, I can't say with any certainty. That's one of the reasons that the study would show if there's a cost-effective way to serve the areas that need it without having to do the whole village. It is economics, basically.
And the other thing too is, as prices go up in 10 years, if somebody's septic fails, like $40,000 would be $50,000, in 10 years, easily.
And is anyone in this room prepared to pay that today?
I'd sell my house.
Mr. Martell?
You asked, do I have to pay for this if I don't need it? Well, you gotta stop thinking about yourself, you gotta think about the future of this town.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah. It's not about just you in this town, and what you gotta pay, it's about the future of this town. Right now, one second, not done. Right now, our town, it doesn't look good. It doesn't. The store right next to his house, it's gonna be closed forever. Then we have a sewer, I believe. And it's crumbling. It's just people, we get people on the Pollyant Trail and it's beautiful over there. But I don't know what this town used to look like back in the day, but Jamie and my mother-in-law said it was beautiful. And it doesn't look like it did back in the day. So stop thinking about yourself and think about the future of this town.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that hasn't spoken that wants to speak? Okay, as I said, we're going to finish collating the results, and this will be on the agenda next month for our consideration and a decision what to do, if anything. So,
should we set a deadline for when we'll stop accepting surveys, or is that deadline already passed?
The deadline's passed,
okay.
But it was past the weather. The post office closed, and it was
timing.
And I don't think we had an adequate way for people to turn their surveys in. That was confusing.
No, yeah.
3 days wasn't a very good time.
I was extremely confused, that's why I came and I brought it with me.
perfect.
Well, thank you. I know people that stopped up here 3 times last week and nobody was here.
No, let's say,
Would it make sense to open it up, keep it open for another week or 10 days, and then we can collate the
Why don't we
results?
keep it open till the end of the month?
Well, we need some time to collate the results.
But it
just
said you
before-
needed to have it in on that Monday. So I'm
yeah.
gonna tell
And we sent out an email and let people, as many people as we could, saying that you could turn it in whenever. So I think that the idea, we'll just set a hard and fast date.
End of the month. It's basically 2 weeks anyway.
Right, it's 2 weeks.
Is there somewhere we could find, to sign up for the email list?
Yeah, the
Okay.
village website.
Okay.
If you go to the contact us page, there's a you can send us information, or you can also just send us an email that says sign up for the email notifications. When you do that, you still get anything that we're required to send you by mail, you'll still get. You get your tax bills naturally, and any other formal, and any other formal communications would still come to you by postal mail, so.
Is there information about this? Once you get it all tallied, is that going to be on the website?
I can certainly put it up there, but it will just be the cold results. You know, it's not going to be for, against, or anything like that. It's just, here's what we got.
What kind of ratio are you seeing though? I mean, are you seeing the outskirts of like against and the inskirts more? I mean,
You know, surprisingly, there were a number of people on the outskirts, outside the quarter-mile radius, that were supportive of it.
Right.
But they were small. We only received, I think, 10 from outside the village. But that changed tonight, so. I mean, from the outer quarter.
Yeah, but like I said, I think some people, it was due last Monday. I think a lot of people were receiving it last Monday in the mail because the week before mail was closed. And I think
Yeah, we've been accepting.
yeah, that's what it
all
almost
week.
needed, a drop box.
And Monday, you're not even open, so Monday wasn't a good choice for an ending day.
But it can be mailed in, it's free.
Yes, I mailed mine. To make, yes.
I did.
Okay.
But we're good with end of the month for a date, and then we can tell you.
Okay, so what is it, the 28th? February 28th will be the deadline. So if you know somebody that hasn't responded, or if they need one, they can get a hold of the village office to get one. We're trying to do it one per household.
Right.
And, you know, we've already had, you know, a couple come in, so. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So once this survey is in and you have all the results in, and if it passes to go ahead to have the 25,000,
That's all the.
now how long does it take from the time you get, so say it moves forward, how long will it take from the time you have the results in to the time to hire this company
Well,
to go ahead and give you the results of what's going on with the sewers and everything?
The company is Row Engineering Services, who is the consulting engineers for the village. They're the ones that have did a Elmwood Street project and some other projects around the village. And start to finish, I think they were talking about 3 months. But you make a good point. This study is just to try and determine for the board's knowledge whether or not we want to spend $25,000. Frankly, we've had the best return, yay and nay, from any survey that we've sent out in the past 10 years. So it's given us a lot of food for thought, but ultimately it'll be up to the village council to vote to spend the money or not. It won't be just because more people said yes than no, or more people said no than yes, okay? This is not like a vote, an official vote. Okay.
Just a quick suggestion, I guess, for future, since the village office is closed, you know, from day to day. Maybe if you guys do a survey in the future, get the option of mailing, or maybe you set a drop box at the post office if they're open.
She won't let us do that. I've asked her that.
Really?
Because they're post office, they're in there for making money. so. Mary said she didn't have a problem with it, she knew her supervisor would
Right,
have.
figured it was like be an idea.
No, it's like we need like a locking one, like attached to the door here.
Open the door.
Yeah, I thought about putting a Santa box out.
Yeah.
4 extra steps just to walk across the street wouldn't be a problem.
Yes, but it's the hours, like it's people leaving in the evening or something after work.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. If there's no further comment, oh, Mr. Mike?
25,000 for the survey, is that just conjecture, or have you actually solicited bids for that?
We've actually got a proposal from our consultant, and I think it was actually $23,400 plus or minus a little bit to do this. And what they'll do is they'll do exactly what we're doing tonight. One of the things they do is they have an open meeting with residents that, you know, it'll be published and, you know, be notified. and they'll come in and do what we did, hear what you have to say, and then they'll also go out and do this field work and figure out if there's a community septic system that they could build that's cheaper than a regular, full-size, full-scale, expensive system. That's what we need to know, what our options are. So, okay, so with that, we'll move on to, let's see, I don't have an update on the DPW, but we had no Freedom of Information Act requests. I have not had any requests for community development block grant applications. Ordinance enforcement, we've got a new one, so, or a new old one. And then I wanted to inform the council, we recently approved a contract for road striping with RS Contracting. That company's been acquired by PK Contracting, and they are willing to honor the price commitment that we had with RS if we want to continue and have them do our striping. So I'd appreciate if the council would approve that by motion, that we can go ahead and do that.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with using PK Contracting, who is acquiring RS Contracting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I believe it was 10 cents a mile, or 10 cents a foot for the contract, but it would be the same. Okay.
I got a question, Representative. How often are we doing that? What are we spending for each time?
Once a year.
What are we spending the 10 cents?
It varies. Sometimes we don't do the sidelines if they don't need it or whatever, but we budget about $8,000 a year for it.
The roads don't look, the stripes don't look that bad, and it's just a personal opinion. I mean, can we put that $8,000 or $4,000 or something?
Well,
put it towards fixing, blowing out a $200 tire or blowing out a tie rod? I mean, I was just wondering, instead of spending money wasting on striping a little bit.
Well, striping is an important safety feature, so that's something that
Especially in the fog.
we're required by MDOT, because we receive Act 51 monies to maintain the striping. So, but we have in the past, like when we did Elmwood Street and Forest Street, we didn't have to pay. That was part of that contract, so that money didn't come out of the general fund. That came out of the MDOT and village funds. So, okay, all in favor? Let's do a roll call on that motion, please, because it involves money.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, council will have found the audit report for a previous year. As you know, we are only required by law to do an audit every other year, which is nice because it's an expensive proposition. So if you have any feedback or anything, please let me know. Moving on to the trustee committee reports, summer festival committee. Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing for the president's report. Council members, you will have found an ordinance substitution for the marijuana ordinance we adopted for your code of ordinances. What you can do is those pages will replace those that are already in your book. So all you have to do is go to that page, pull out, and put in the new one. Okay, Summer Festival Committee. I haven't heard anything lately on that, and the chairperson's not here. Cable Commission, we know they're having an open house.
Yep, they're having an open house. Nothing significant other than they are currently moving into their new facilities. And I was there today, it looks nice.
All right, thank you. Decorating Committee, we adopted their meeting dates. I don't know if there's anything.
Nope, their first meeting's tomorrow,
Okay.
7 o'clock here.
So there's a 7 p.m. meeting, February 12th, here at Roland Hall. Northumberland Transportation Authority. I've heard from reliable sources that it appears NODA is purchasing a building in Oxford as a permanent operations center. I'm sure we'll read more about that as time goes by.
Bill said they bought it today.
Yeah. Okay, Planning Commission. There will be an public hearing on the master plan this month to recommend adoption by the Planning Commission and the Village Council. So that'll be on, do you remember the date?
21st?
February 21st at 7 p.m. here at Rowland Hall. Pollyant Trail, been pretty quiet due to the weather and other things. There will be a meeting later this month. Village Park, I don't think we have anything going on this month, do we, Mike?
Scheduled, no confirmation in the meeting.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that we need to address, so my recommendation is we wait.
Okay.
You don't want to meet in the sub-zero weather?
Okay, and then finally, Community Development Block Grant, council received a summary. And so if there's anything else, is there any other business to come before the council tonight? Hearing none, motion to adjourn would be in order.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second for us to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you very much for attending tonight.